A core wound can be caused by any painful experience or experiences that causes you to change or alter how you see yourself. Instead of seeing how you really are or who you truly are, you begin defining yourself through the lens of these core wounds. They become how you define yourself. And once that happens, they become the template through which you enter relationships. And once that happens, rather than seeing who you really are, you live your life through the lens of that template. When core wounds that come from trauma, that come from toxic relationships, that come from narcissistic parents, when that becomes what defines you, it affects everything in your life. It affects your friendships. It affects your self-value, your self-worth. It affects your ability to reach for your goals. It affects everything. So that being said, I really wanted to peel back 5 core wounds that covert narcissists really instill in their victims and want you to believe are who you are, when the reality is that those beliefs that are formed by them are so far from who you truly are. And the sad part is that once narcissists get those core wounds in you, and you are now defining yourself through the lens of these core wounds, they can leave, or even if you leave all toxic relationships, those core wounds will continue to cause you suffering. The sad, scary, strange thing about narcissistic abuse, not the only strange thing, but definitely one of them, is the fact that a narcissist thrives when their targets are struggling. So let's start breaking free of these core wounds, because there's nothing worse than having undergone narcissistic abuse, but having to stay stuck suffering, even if they're gone, is even worse. So it's time to change that. That being said, let's dive in. For those that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a certified trauma-informed recovery coach. I'm also a somatic experiencing practitioner and the founder of Thriver School of Transformation, which is a monthly membership where we meet live on Zoom. So if the videos aren't enough, remember to check out this resource to see if it's a good fit for you. Okay, let's talk about those core wounds that they love to inflict and have you identify yourself as. The first one is, everything is my fault. Now, we know whether it's a narcissistic parent or a narcissistic significant other, they never take responsibility for anything that they do. And on top of that, covert narcissists are expert manipulators. They're so good at spinning things and confusing people that, let's say you call them out for doing something, right? By the end of the conversation, you'll find yourself apologizing, or you'll find yourself walking away from the conversation confused because nothing you thought was going to happen happened, and what didn't make sense, and yet you can't even put the pieces together to understand it. And so when we have that belief, everything is my fault, we enter relationships in a very one-sided way. We expect to do all the work and we expect nothing else because we take responsibility for everything. What happens is somebody else can have really bad behavior, really bad relationship skills, really abusive characteristics. And rather than noticing that, you will take responsibility to try harder to make them happy. That's one of the things that happens when you identify with this core wound. And that leads me into the next core wound, which is a hybrid of 2 beliefs. The first belief being, it's my responsibility to make you happy. And it's meshed, or it's a hybrid belief with, I don't matter. So again, there's this all or nothing way of being where it's my responsibility to make you happy. You matter. You matter. I don't. When you wind up identifying with this core wound or believing that it's true, you wind up seeing yourself as a giver and a caretaker, and you want to take care of people. And this usually happens because the narcissist will only give you any kind of credit or any kind of compliments or any kind of positive regard when you're doing something for them. So when you're doing something for you, you're punished. But when you're doing something for them, you're met with something positive, even if it's simply just a let up of abuse. That feels amazing when you are constantly being abused, to have a let up of abuse. And so the subconscious mind is watching all the time. And it's like, oh, if I make them happy, if I stop caring about myself and I make them happy, then I matter. And our whole sense of self-worth winds up getting intertwined in doing, caregiving, giving, while having this belief, I don't matter. And that doesn't attract healthy relationships, because people that matter, people that know their worth, want to go into relationships with other people that matter. And so we wind up not having healthy relationships. We wind up having or attracting relationships with people that confirm that truth. You don't matter, I matter. In other words, narcissists. The third core wound is I'm not safe to be me. This is so covertly done, again, because a covert narcissist will never tell you you're not allowed to be you. A covert narcissist will never tell you stop doing things that make you happy. They won't do that. Rather, they will provoke a negative emotion in you when you do those things so that you stop willingly without them saying anything. So for example, let's say you're being yourself and you're really happy. Well, the narcissist will either give you the silent treatment, give you this look as if you're doing something wrong, or they'll flat out say something negative about what you're doing. And done repeatedly over and over, your subconscious mind starts learning, anytime I'm happy, something bad happens. And so that's what the belief I'm not safe is blended with. I'm not safe and something bad will happen. This is a hard one to really understand because, especially with covert abuse, a lot of people that are undergoing covert abuse know or believe that the abusive person is not going to touch them, is not going to put a hand on them. So a part of them is like, well, how come I'm not safe? I am safe, and yet I don't feel safe. And so we have to understand that when the nervous system learns that something bad is going to happen, and it pairs in your nervous system, being me, something bad happening, the exactly what bad thing kind of isn't even touched on. There's no thought in the nervous system as far as like, well, let's analyze this. No, it's like, I'm being myself, something bad is going to happen, danger. That's as far into that conversation, so to speak, that the nervous system goes. It just happens that fast. Automatically think something bad is going to happen. I don't feel safe. I go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Narcissists love to inflict the I'm not safe, something bad is going to happen core wound in people because it shuts them down and it stops them from being their best selves. And oftentimes when we peel it back and we're like, okay, well, what is this bad thing we're fearing and we're dreading? What is it? It often is they're going to get mad, and we're going to have to deal with some sort of silent treatment or insult. Nothing literally dangerous to ourselves, our body, but emotionally, the danger is an emotional danger of I'm going to be treated in a way that's going to cause pain. I've had clients when they realize that's the danger because it feels life and death. And when they peel it back, they're like, well, he's never going to hit me. He won't do this. He won't cross this line. Well, what am I scared of? Oh, I'm afraid he's going to get mad, or she is going to get mad. And then I'm going to have to deal with this emotional punishment. That combination core wound of I'm not safe, something bad is going to happen, can cause a person to lose years and decades of their life. They're too afraid to do anything, to try anything new, to be themselves, to let themselves allow the best pieces of them out, because the nervous system remembers the horror that happened. So the nervous system remembers the pain of every time you were being yourself and how it was rejected. It keeps you stuck for decades until you learn how to unidentify with this core wound. Number 4 is another hybrid of 2 painful beliefs as well. The first one being there's something wrong with me, right? With narcissistic abuse, there's always something wrong with you. There's something wrong with everything you do. No matter how hard you try, you don't make this person happy. And because it's a person that love should flow easily, right? As in a family member or significant other, it doesn't make sense. And because covert abusers treat members differently in the family. So maybe you might notice that this covert abuser treats other people in a way that's different than you. They're nice to them, but not to you. They're thoughtful and they compliment them, but they don't compliment you. And so that only makes it easier to think, well, it must be me because they're not like that with other people. And that's exactly what covert narcissists want you to believe, because they don't need to treat everyone the same. If they have one person that they can be creating chaos with, that they can be causing suffering in, and they can use that person as the garbage pail, basically, to carry all the things they don't want to deal with inside of them, then they can treat others really good. Unfortunately, if you don't understand that, you start seeing they treat others good and me bad, there's something wrong with me. And then when you don't have the tools to heal, it could be like you're trying to heal, you're trying to get better, and it feels so hard because it is hard. And sometimes healing is almost like trying to find the Holy Grail. It can be challenging to understand what helps work through this type of emotional covert trauma. And so it's twisted up with the other belief of, I can never heal. It's just too hard. And so we can make a career out of healing and yet still feel stuck when we're identifying with these two core beliefs. And then the last one that I'm going to mention is the belief, I am bad. So everyone makes mistakes, right? Everyone does things that they shouldn't. Everyone does bad things at moments, right? But I am bad gets ingrained in somebody that is in a relationship with a covert narcissist. It's not that I messed up, I made a mistake. No, it's you are bad. And when we have this belief, the number one emotion that usually accompanies that is shame. Shame is one of the heaviest emotions to have to carry. It weighs you down. There's barely any energy in the emotion of shame. In fact, it's like one step above death. That's the resonance of shame. And so when you're stuck in shame, you just stay stuck. You don't have the energy to change anything. So these are 5 core wounds that get inflicted by narcissistic abuse. There's nothing that a narcissist would love more than for you to identify with all 5 of these and to stay stuck. Healing is about upgrading these beliefs. It's about knocking out the dents of these beliefs, the dents that they've created in your self-image. It's about learning to get back to who you really are. And it's a process. It's not easy because most of us have almost a lifetime of feeling like this is who we are. This feels like who we are. It feels so true because it's been a part of us for so long. But you can start shifting out of these beliefs. You can start peeling it back, and your true self is still there. I know it can feel like your real self either was never created, never allowed to be created, or was destroyed. But the amazing thing about how we're created is the fact that our real authentic self never leaves, never goes away. It does get buried by layers of trauma. It does get buried, but we can remove those layers. And here are a couple of things that can help. The first is to start listening to how you treat yourself, listening to your inner dialogue. Because one of the things that keeps negative and core beliefs alive is our inner dialogue, how we talk to ourselves. For example, if I make a mistake and I say something like, you're so stupid, you're such a bad person, you're so worthless, I hate you. Look, all you ever do is make mistakes, which might be what somebody used to say to me. If I've now internalized that, then I'm going to stay in that core wound of I am bad. So changing is about starting to listen to how these core wounds show up in our life. And one of the ways that they do is through our inner dialogue. If you had had a loving parent or a loving spouse, they would have spoken to you with compassion, and then we would have internalized that. But if you had somebody harsh, we internalized that. And so we need to start removing that dialogue that is only keeping these core wounds alive. That's one tip to help. Another tip is to start teaching your body how to feel safe. You can be safe and yet not feel safe. You can be out of toxic relationships and your body's still acting the same as if there's danger around every corner. And so we have to work with our body. We have to learn how to breathe in a way that helps our nervous system to know that we are safe. We have to learn how to help our nervous system to balance. Yes, it's going to notice danger and sensations of danger in our body, but we have to learn how to help it to see areas of safety, places in our body that are neutral, that feel good to be in. And so we do pendulation exercises in Thrivers to start helping our body so that we can teach it how to have more balance and to not be overly focused on the negative and overly identifying with those negative beliefs. That's something else that can be helpful. So I'll leave it at that. Don't forget, if you are looking for more consistent help on a weekly basis, I meet live with people on Zoom every week, and we do these tools and the things that I mentioned, we do them together. And then we also address the subconscious blocks that come up when we're doing these tools. So it's a really awesome program. Don't forget to check it out if you're feeling like you need more assistance.